Is it a cinematic sensation? Is it a masterpiece of animation? Or a terrible train wreck like Jambareeqi check? If a movie needs an exorcism, he'll smite the demon with criticism. If it deserves attention, he'll give it a heartfelt mention. A strawberry rating 1 to 5. Jambareeqi reviews.
Howdy folks, Jambareeqi here. The Prince of Egypt is one of the most highly requested films I've ever had on this show, and it's come very close to winning several fan polls. Finally, it's won one, and at long last I'm going to be analysing it in this video. Moses and Ramesses are two Egyptian brothers who have fun times together, but their father insists that Ramesses starts taking his future on the throne seriously, considering the legacy he's carrying on. So Ramesses is given the duty of heading the royal architecture, which is being built by Hebrew slaves. One day, Moses discovers that he himself is a Hebrew who was sent down the river by his mother, in a bid to avoid being slaughtered by the Egyptians. Startled by this new discovery, his eyes are open to the world outside Egyptian royalty, and he runs away from the kingdom to become a shepherd. While living a peaceful life though, God himself appears to Moses as a burning bush, urging him to free his people and lead them to a new land. Both reluctant and eager, Moses takes on this responsibility, much to the frustration of Ramesses, who is now Egypt's pharaoh. Luckily, Moses will be supported by his loved ones and backed up with God's amazing powers. Dreamworks set out to make an animated feature truly worthy of theatrical release, while also having the ambition to push what animated cinema could do when taken seriously. Amazingly, the filmmakers succeeded with flying colours. Now, the film does take artistic liberties with its source material of the Exodus. Some of these changes were made to make the film more family-friendly, but a lot of alterations were clearly done to strengthen the film's narrative and characters. Sure, it's not the definitive biblical version of the story, but with help from religious advisors, the movie managed to translate the spirit of Moses' tale into a tasteful and respectful film. It's a movie that speaks to everyone, whether they believe in God or not. Even as an atheist who lost his faith over a decade ago, I can confidently say that this movie really resonated with me and took me on a very transcendent journey. I felt like the film was welcoming audiences of all walks of life to appreciate its themes of family, hope, love, spirituality, faith, responsibility, and identity. The movie approaches its complex story with a huge sense of maturity and intelligence. Nothing is oversimplified or dumbed down. It makes for a really engrossing movie because you can tell that the filmmakers respect both the story they're telling and the audience watching. It's a film that isn't afraid to depict the raw grittiness of its biblical adaptation and doesn't narrow characters down to simple caricatures of good and evil. It's this level of dimension and effort that adds dozens of rich layers to everything conveyed in the film. Although, as dramatic as the movie can be, it's also got a very subtle sense of humour, and some voice actors were even allowed to improvise jokes. Here's the thing, you can insert comedy into a dark or serious movie, if it works in the film's favour, it's actually funny, and doesn't kill the movie's overall tone. The humour in this movie does all three of those things. It can support the tension by showing the humanity of a character, serve as a comforting break from the darker moments, and give us a good laugh without causing tonal whiplash. At no point did I get cross about this movie's use of comedy, because it was done in small, nuanced doses and worked to the movie's advantage. I'm going to give 5 points to the content. Moses goes through a very powerful journey in this film. He starts off as a spoilt prince with no responsibilities, but eventually grows into a man who speaks for God and leads his own people. It's not a rushed transition though. Right from the start, we can tell that he's one of the more empathetic royal Egyptians, with a sense of right burning within him, dying to get out, foreshadowing the deeply emotional man he becomes once he discovers his true identity. It's his confrontations with his origins and guidance from his loved ones that help shape him into the man God knows he'll grow into. I also respect that he's not your usual conventional movie hero, he's deeper than that. We can totally see how he's conflicted between his desire to free his people and his gut-wrenching guilt while witnessing God's punishments on Ramesses' kingdom. He's aware that not every step forward is entirely a victory, and he grieves over the victims of his cause. He truly is one of the most human animated characters to ever grace cinema. Ramesses isn't a straightforward villain, he's more rounded than your usual tyrannical antagonist. The film does give us a chance to sympathise with him by helping us understand how important his role of the pharaoh really is and the magnitude of what's expected from the descendants of his royal ancestors. He's exploiting Hebrews to build his legacy, barbarically treating them like they are worthless. But the movie reminds us why he's doing all this, thus adding rich dimension to his villainy. But a central focus of this movie is the brotherly relationship between Ramesses and Moses. Moses is the man who Ramesses grew up with, his best friend and adoptive brother. We can really believe their closeness as siblings growing up, which is why there's so much nail-biting tension and exhilarating complication behind the whole Moses versus Ramesses conflict. Ramesses can't simply put an end to Moses' protest with a quick execution. No, his love for his brother convinces him otherwise. So, he feels like he's stuck in a position where he can either sacrifice his chance to live up to his ancestors' expectations, or watch his kingdom's people suffer the wrath of God. God is depicted in a very unique way. He's a commanding presence, but also very soothing and comforting. We can really feel the ominous and ethereal weight of his existence every time he's on screen. He looks ghostly and otherworldly, but there's something that draws Moses to him, an energy that's full of love but also powerfully strong. Zipporah is a Midian priest's daughter who is offered as a slave to Moses, but he lets her go instead. After running away from Egypt and making the decision to live with the Midians, he ends up falling for and wedding Zipporah. Zipporah exhibits a strength and tenacity that will later be used as supportive energy for her husband's cause. She's a tough woman with no fear about standing up to her captors, but she's also a very sympathetic individual too. Once she knows about Moses' plan to free his people, we can see that she's both scared for her husband's safety, but also proud of his heartfelt compassion for the slaves. Miriam, Moses' biological sister, serves as a bridge between Moses' adoptive culture and his true heritage. She's also a symbol of hope and love, being the only Hebrew willing to give Moses a chance, and having the most confidence about her brother's ability to save her people. Aaron, Moses' biological brother, is much more neurotic and cynical than his optimistic sister. The thing is, even though Moses is going out of his way to save the Hebrews, they are also being punished for his protests. So they don't immediately see him as some great hero. Aaron speaks for the slaves' loss of hope and acceptance that this is the life that they will lead. And you know what? We can actually see where Aaron is coming from, even when he challenges Moses' sudden compassion for his people. The high priests are the pharaoh's advisors who use magic tricks to challenge Moses' God. They come the closest to being the film's cartoony comic relief characters, but the filmmakers draw a line for how silly they can be. To be honest, I think it's this near-the-edge kookiness that makes them kind of creepy. There's something wormy about them. We despise their snake-like ways of helping the pharaoh fear the Hebrews' God less. I'm going to give 5 points to the characters. On a visual level, this movie is jaw-dropping and breathtaking, a really overwhelming experience for all your emotional and spiritual senses. So much care and love has gone into every artistic decision. The backgrounds have been drawn with the intention to authentically reflect a character's environment, whether it's the grand-scale golden Egyptian kingdom, symbolizing the excessiveness of the pharaoh's architectural demands and smug privilege of the Egyptians, or the grimy huts for the Hebrews to live in that encourage us to feel sorry for their livelihoods. The character designs do the same kind of thing. The Egyptians have sharp and angular features to make them look sinister, while the Hebrews have very soft and fragile designs to help us sympathize with them. For Moses, he has a blend of these two kinds of designs to illustrate how he's part of both cultures. The animation itself is too good for words, but I'll try. You can really tell that the animators have put their hearts and souls into matching the weight and gravitas of the dialogue, taking huge influence from the actors themselves. Even if dialogue isn't required, the movie will respect this and let nuanced actions or pauses speak instead. The looks on these characters speak volumes about what's going through their minds. I can't thank this movie enough for taking so many risks and chances when communicating with the audience. CGI effects are also featured in the film, and they really do aid the film in special ways. They can help shots feel more grandiose and cinematic by using a clever exposure tool to give the camera more freedom to elevate the cinematography scope. The fact that the supernatural phenomena in the film is done with computer animation makes the fantastical elements stand out more, because they look otherworldly compared to anything hand-drawn. I'm going to give 5 points to the animation. Val Kilmer voices Moses, brilliantly conveying a man who's both honoured to be leading God's people, but also terrified of the war that's about to be started.
Ramesses, in my heart you are my brother. But things cannot be as they were.
I see no reason why not.
You know I am a Hebrew, and the God of the Hebrews came to me.
What?
He commands that you let his people go.
Interestingly, Val also voices God himself, and he doesn't put on a cliche booming voice, no, he uses his natural speaking voice. And this actually makes sense because a lot of people do consider the conscience inside their head to be the voice of God. The voices of other cast members echo in God's voice too, ringing sounds of Moses' loved ones, really reflecting the love that's in God.
Moses, I shall be with you when you go to the king of Egypt. But Pharaoh will not listen. So I will stretch out my hand and smite Egypt with all my wonders.
Ralph Fiennes voices Ramesses, sounding effectively domineering as a pharaoh, but also vulnerable as a man who is scared about living up to the expectations of his family's legacy.
I do not know this god. Neither will I let your people go.
Ramesses, please, you must listen.
I will not be the weak link.
Michelle Pfeiffer voices Zipporah, fantastically dueling her character's loving heart and tenacious toughness.
That's why I give her to you.
No, that's generous,
I
but...
won't be given to anyone, especially an arrogant, pampered palace brat.
Are you gonna let her talk to you like that?
You will show the proper respect for a prince of Egypt.
But I am showing you all the respect you deserve.
But Moses, you're just one man.
Sandra Bullock plays Miriam, truly capturing the voice of a woman who sees hope in her brother.
Moses, hear what I say. I have been a slave all my life, and God has never answered my prayers until now. God saved you from the river. He saved you in all your wanderings, and even now, He saves you from the wrath of Pharaoh. God will not abandon you. So don't you abandon us.
Jeff Goldblum voices Aaron. His distinct jittery mannerisms and iconic ums and ahs actually clicks with the character because he's supposed to sound very nervous and neurotic. At no point did I find his celebrity voice to be too distracting.
You must know.
Be careful, slave.
Oh, my good prince. She's exhausted from the day's work. Not that it was too much. We quite enjoyed it, but she's confused and knows not to whom she speaks.
I know to whom I speak.
In fact, Moses, when did you start caring about slaves? Was it when you found out that you were one of us?
Don't listen to him.
No, he's right. I did not see because I did not wish to see.
Or you didn't see because you didn't wish to see? Ah! Well, that makes everything fine then.
Martin Short and Steve Martin voiced the High Priest. Now, this must have been a really risky casting decision because these are actors that are renowned for very silly, comical performances. But the Martins respect the material, reading the dialogue with a nuanced creepiness while also letting their flamboyant personalities ooze out a little bit.
I seek to build an empire, and your only thought is to amuse yourselves by tearing it down. Have I taught you nothing?
You mustn't be so hard on yourself, Your Majesty. You're an excellent teacher.
It's not your fault your sons learned nothing.
Well, they learned blasphemy. True.
I'm going to give 5 points to the voice acting. The original music score for this movie, which was composed by the renowned Hans Zimmer, is wonderfully magnificent. Intricate thoughts and heartfelt sounds bleed from the instrument's notes, as if Zimmer's very soul is being sketched into the pieces. The score is completely aware of the film's ambitious effort, so it tries as hard as the artist who made it. But it can also be intimate and human enough to convey characters' visceral emotions. Also, when God appears on screen, he has a theme. The music will respectfully sing in praise to his wonder. The film is also packed with loads of musical numbers written and composed by Stephen Schwartz, who would later go on to make Wicked. All of these songs have an important storytelling duty in the film. No song feels like it's there for the sake of it. There's an operatic depth to the more theatrical songs that fantastically reflects the scale of God's wrath upon Egypt or the Pharaoh's menacing taunts towards Moses, while many other songs help the film to express the earnest and passionate feelings of characters, whether those feelings are of hope, fear, love, or sadness. Songs range in emotion and mood, never feeling like a rehash of another, with poetic subtleties and sincere wording within the lyrics. Every musician and singer spills their heart out while performing, and it's this level of commitment that makes the musical numbers stunning to listen to. I'm going to give 5 points to the music. To conclude, I think that The Prince of Egypt is a spectacular and daring movie that proves that you can make a serious animated movie for families without pandering to or insulting the kids watching. It is a testament to what can be done with the art of animation cinema. You can definitely tell that everyone that contributed to it put their blood, sweat, and tears into making it. The Prince of Egypt has gained 25 points, which translates to 5 hieroglyphic strawberries out of 5. If you enjoyed such DreamWorks films as Joseph, King of Dreams and The Road to El Dorado, then I think you might like The Prince of Egypt. I'd just like to let people know that the graphics for this video were done by Toongrin. If you'd like to request commissions from them, here's their website on screen. I've been Jambareeqi and I hope you enjoyed this review. If you did, then feel free to subscribe to my channel. Also, please consider supporting me by making a monthly pledge to my Patreon in return for awesome rewards. Thank you. A shout out to my newest patron, Benny Boy. Cheers, mate. So, how am I going to follow up a movie like Prince of Egypt? Well, in the next episode of Jambareeqi Reviews, I'm going to be talking about Ethel and Ernest. Cheerio, folks.